Good morning and welcome to Morning Scoop for Saturday, October 9th. This is your daily Buckeye fix. I'm Tom Orr. The Maryland game is today, the game against Michigan in 49 days. The Buckeyes and Terps will kick off at noon today on Fox. You can, before the game, make sure you check out one of our live streams, our live pregame show from Ohio Stadium. Tony Gerterman, Kevin Noonan, and I will be there before the game, probably 9 a.m., give or take. Giving you a full preview of today's game between the Buckeyes and the Terps. You can find that at youtube.com/Buckeye Scoop. But once that game starts, there's going to be some interesting storylines to watch. The Buckeyes have dominated Akron, dominated Rutgers the last couple of weeks. It's a little bit more of a step up in competition this week. The Terps are not a world beater, but it's a better team than the Buckeyes have played the last couple of weeks. So we're going to learn a lot more about that Ohio State team a little later on today. One of the people we are kind of continuing to learn a little bit more about is CJ Stroud. The young quarterback was very impressive against Rutgers. Obviously, sat out the game against Akron, came back very strong against the Scarlet Knights, now facing a little bit better of a defense. Ryan Day was asked this week, what are you challenging CJ Stroud with this week, as he continues to sort of grow and progress towards being the kind of quarterback that the Buckeyes ultimately need him to be?
Nothing in particular other than just making sure that, the preparation's strong. He's continuing to build toughness and making great decisions and not, riding a roller coaster, being steady, not too high, not too low, just keep building and growing and find a way to win the game. And that's what it is.
After today's game against Maryland, the Buckeyes have a bye week, their first bye week of the season. That's going to be leading into a very important stretch with a road game in Indiana, a home game against Penn State before the calendar turns to November. That this is a really crucial time. Day was asked about how they were going to make the most of that bye week, but he was definitely not ready to talk about that just yet.
We'll talk about that after the game. Right now, I don't even want to talk about that. I really just want to focus on this game right here and just maximizing today and just worrying about exactly Saturday. I do hear exactly what you're saying, and I've thought about that, but I really wanted to focus on just playing really great on Saturday, not what's coming next. Because, they're, like you said, I think exactly what you just said is real, but let's just focus on winning this game and finding a way to win this game, however it looks, and then we'll go from there.
We've spent a lot of time this week talking about a number of the Buckeyes freshmen who have really made an immediate impact on the team. One guy we have not talked a lot about, though, is Emeka Egbuka. He's a five-star wide receiver out of the state of Washington. He obviously had that one very big play, 85-yard gain against Akron a couple weeks ago. That may be what you remember him for, but he's also been the Buckeyes kick returner. Here's what Ryan Day had to say about what he likes about Egbuka and what he brings to the kick return.
He's got good strength. You can see he's built strong and he's tough. He's for a young man, he's very, very mature. He takes his job very seriously. And again, we're just mature, we trust him back there. He's going to hit it. He's got to, our guys believe that he can take it. He's been close a couple times, hasn't got a lot of opportunities the last couple of weeks. But hopefully the next time he gets a chance to take it out, we got a chance for an explosive play.
The pass rush has been a concern for Ohio State at various points over the last couple of years. This year, the team has sort of a friendly competition between the defensive ends and the defensive tackles to see who can get more sacks this season. Right now, the tackles have a very, very big lead on the ends. Tony Gerterman asked Day, can the ends catch up?
I hope so. That means we got more sacks. I think, when you look at the pressure we're starting to get, I think that it's exciting. We're starting to get home on some things, and I think a lot of it has to do with our guys getting better at rushing, but also I think that, the quarterback maybe isn't seeing the same picture all the time, and that we're changing the picture up and changing the windows and changing the scheme. And when we can go from zone to man to zone, one high to two high, it maybe has him hold on to the ball just an extra second. And when that can happen, that allows our rush to get home. And so you're starting to see that come together, I think, in both areas.
One of the very big storylines of September was the change in the defensive coaching staff. No one officially changed the title, but Kerry Combs is no longer calling the defense. That is now Matt Barnes' responsibility. Combs now more basically coming back to just coaching the defensive backs. That was a big change. Day was asked, why did he make that change? What did Barnes bring to the table? Day said, I'll answer that question, but don't forget about Kerry Combs.
it's still everybody involved. It's not just Matt. I mean, I think, Larry's done a great job. I also think Kerry's done a tremendous job. He's still very much involved, and his day to day and what he's done has been tremendous. I think Matt, brings a skill set to the table that is first off, he's a really good teacher. He understands schematic football, connects with his players, and he's well organized. So that allows him to bring some of those skill sets to the forefront, and it seems to be building some confidence in what we've got going on defense. But again, it's still a team effort over there. It's not just one guy, and but I do think the guys are buying into kind of where we're going with the defense.
The game today is another noon kickoff for the Buckeyes. They've had a few of those this year, including the Oregon game, which was a big recruiting weekend. Day was asked, how much does that impact you in recruiting? Because if you're recruiting West Coast kids, they're playing games Friday night on the West Coast, and then it's almost impossible for them to get all the way east in order to see a noon kickoff. So how big a deal have those noon kickoffs been in terms of Ohio State's ability to recruit players from other parts of the country?
I think we're going to have some night games here moving forward too. So I think there'll be opportunities for guys to come visit when they want to. It is harder for the West Coast guys to get here for a noon game, like you're saying, but there are still some guys within driving distance that should be able to make it. And that's a part of the equation that obviously we'd love to get guys here for games. So the more guys we can get on campus for the game day atmosphere, we think it's the best game day atmosphere there is in the country. And, we want to get guys here, and hopefully there's going to be more opportunities as we head into the middle of October and November. But the noon kickoff, it is always also exciting, and it's fun. And for the guys who can get here, it's obviously the prime time, for Fox and some of the other guys. And so that's part of the equation as well. But we've had, I guess, a few noon games. We've also had some 3:30 and some night games as well. So, when guys can make it, we certainly want to get them here as many times as we can. And it's a huge selling point for our program.
Earlier in the week, we got a chance to talk to several of the Buckeyes' young stars. I'm going to let you hear from some of them, because those are always, when you haven't heard from a guy yet, you sort of see him on the field. It's always interesting to hear from the guy as well, and get to know him a little bit more, at least through an interview setting. First guy, I'm not even going to tell you who he is, because he's going to tell you who he is. He is a 5-star defensive end out of the state of Washington. He showed up very late this year, and so he'll tell you, first of all, how to say his name, because a lot of people have been saying it wrong. And also, a lot of people have spent months calling him JTT. He says, actually, no, it's just JT.
Tuimoloau. And I'm going to clear this up for my mom. JT's initials, Jalen, is my real name. So that's where JT comes from. There's no extra T. To clear that up. Yeah. Yeah. JT is just my first and last name, just my initials.
So yes, that was JT Tuimoloau. And if you want to call him something, just call him JT. So he made his decision very, very late in the process. He dragged that out for quite a while because he wanted to make sure he took all 5 visits. He said his parents were very big on him making sure he took all 5 visits, spent as much time evaluating these schools as he needed to, because this is a big decision for him, and that's understandable. Made his decision very late, showed up pretty late, missed spring ball, missed a bunch of summer conditioning at Ohio State, but he's been on the field immediately. He played that first game. He's played every game since. He said a lot of that is just because he didn't just show up. He showed up prepared.
I would say what I did before I took my visits, I was training with Tracy Ford, one of my trainers back home, and training with Cliff Averill, keeping my D-line. My D-line moves up to par. So when I did show in, I wasn't too far behind. So, as the time came around, when I did have my decision made, I took that week, trained more, and then I came in.
Tuimoloau has only been on campus for a couple of months, and it frankly seems like just about yesterday since when he actually showed up. But how has he seen himself changing already since he's gotten to Columbus? Coach Mick never takes long to have an impact on these guys. Here's what Tuimoloau had to say about that.
I kind of, since coming in, I've kind of leaned out a little bit more. That's still my goal, is to keep leaning out. But yeah, I can see my body changing as I've been here for the past two and a half months.
At 275, is that about right?
Yeah, so it's 275, 273 is where I'm gauging at right now.
Tuimoloau was not the only 5-star defensive end in this year's class. Jack Sawyer, of course, from Pickerington. He was here in the spring, made an immediate impact during the spring game. We'll talk about that in a minute. But here's what he had to say about what it's been like to transition from being a high school player into a college player, especially after taking a year off last fall due to COVID. So you're going to hear him talking about that. Then you're going to hear a follow-up question from Stephen Means of Cleveland.com, and then a little more information from Jack Sawyer.
Yeah, it's been really well. All the older guys are real. Showing like big brothers to all of us young guys, and made an easy transition. It's been good getting back on the field. So I haven't played in a while, and getting back in my rhythm and starting to get better with more and more reps. So it's been great.
What's the not playing football last year? Really not playing defensive end for a while, because even your junior year you're playing quarterback. What was like the hardest transition you had to make after doing this full time, basically at another level?
Yeah, no, I don't think that me taking that that kind of that time off really negatively affected my play that much. I'd say just getting back in the swing of football every day was a little different. Obviously, college is a lot different from high school, so I'd say like more of the day-to-day stuff is what's been a lot different for all of us young guys coming in.
And if you were at the Ohio State spring game this spring, Jack Sawyer had a monster day. He was kind of the story of the day almost on that Saturday in April in Ohio Stadium. But how challenging has it been to transition now from spring football to fall camp and regular season? You'll hear Sawyer talk about that. Then you're going to hear a follow-up from Bill Rabinowitz of the Columbus Dispatch.
Yeah, so spring ball is a lot different than in season and fall camp. Obviously we're locked down during fall camp. It's kind of football 24/7. So it kind of takes a toll on everyone. And spring is a lot different than fall camp and transition into the season. But I think we all did a really good job of it, and I think we all are coming together week by week, and I think our D line is going to take off. It's going to be pretty scary in the next couple of weeks.
We've asked Coach Johnson about you and JTT, and he describes you as a finesse player. I'm just curious what you think of that description.
Being a finesse player in the pass game isn't bad. I think pass rushing is supposed to be a little more finesse. You know what I mean? You're supposed to use your athleticism and all your pass rush moves you need. I think anyone can kind of bull rush a guy. It's much needed too, a lot of the time. So, finesse in the pass game, and then be as physical as you can in the run game.
The last true freshman lineman phenom who we want to talk to you about is Donovan Jackson. Now, we did not get a chance to talk to Donovan this week, but we did get a chance to talk to Thayer Munford. Now, Munford has a unique perspective on this, because just a few years ago, he was the freshman who was getting some surprising playing time as a true freshman. He had answered another question where someone was asking, would he have been ready to come in like JT Tuimoloau did, come in late in the summer and just immediately start making impact? And he's like, no chance. But I asked him, so, it sounds crazy to say that because that's so hard for a lineman, but Donovan Jackson's doing just that. He's not starting, but he came in this summer. He was not an early enrollee. He was not in the spring. He showed up this summer and has earned a spot on the field. They're using him sort of situationally, especially in some of those jumbo packages, goal line sets, that type of thing. Here's what Thayer Munford had to say about how impressive that is to him about Donovan Jackson coming in and doing that. And then you're going to hear a couple follow-up questions from me talking, getting a little more information from Munford on Donovan Jackson and just how good he could be.
That's really, really hard coming in as a freshman and actually being like one of the guys in that group, because I was like that, and I told me, Nick, told him like, you want a special guy, like don't take this for granted. If you take this for granted, like it's gonna run away. Like stuff's gonna keep going on. Like you just gotta keep going. And being a freshman, especially being a guard on field goal, that's a lot. There's a lot to take in because you got to take on a defensive lineman that's already have a lot more energy or a little more aggression because they just got scored on. So him taking that role on and staying even keel, don't get too low on himself is actually pretty good.
Now, as someone who kind of went through this several years ago now, how big is that not only to be getting all those extra practice reps against good competition, but also game reps? How big is that for an offensive lineman to just start building that sort of library?
Actually, it's pretty good. Practice reps for us is basically game reps because we go against one of the best defensive lines in the country because of Larry Johnson and what the defensive lineman's mindset is. Like for me, for instance, I went against Shea Sean, Nick Bosa, Jalen Holmes, Sam Hubbard, Tyquan Lewis. Go and those names just like you know those names like because they are some dogs and they know how to play. They know how to play with like physicality, so they bring it every day. So for me, it was kind of like pretty nice that you're gonna get that. And for Donovan, he's still working. You know, I love him. He's still working though, and I just love how his attitude is towards everything.
How good can he be? I mean, he's got the recruiting pedigree, which obviously doesn't mean anything when you get here, but it's like you see how early he's getting on the field here. I mean, how good could he be?
He can be literally like his potential is like right here, right now, but it's so far. It's just like everybody else. Everybody's potential in offensive lineman is so high. It's so high, but the thing is, just gotta have a mindset that you go get it, to actually like work for it, actually ask questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Like I tell them all the time, just don't be afraid to ask questions. It might be dumb, but we'll tell you like, all right, like that's a dumb answer, or dumb question, but this is why we do the things that we do.
Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed those shows. Those midweek interviews are always interesting. We get to talk to a lot of different guys. I think we talked to 7 or 8 guys this week. Always a lot of interesting stuff that comes out. It's just kind of nice to let you get a little sense for who some of these players are behind the scenes, get to know them a little bit, with their helmets off. What do they look like? What do they sound like? What do they think about various things? So I do like to do these shows every once in a while. Hope you guys enjoy them as much as I do. And also make sure you check out our wonderful coverage later on today for the Ohio State Maryland game. We're going to have a pregame show, as I mentioned earlier. Tony Gerdeman, Kevin Noon, and I will have a live pregame show on youtube.com/Buckeye Scoop, probably about 3 hours before the game, give or take. But the best way to make sure you don't miss it is by subscribing to our YouTube channel. So if you're on YouTube, hit that bell. If you are not on YouTube, go to youtube.com/Buckeye Scoop and then hit that bell, and that will subscribe you to our channel. And what that'll do is then you get notified as soon as we go live. So that way you won't miss anything. You don't have to sit there refreshing the page. It just will pop up with, hey, these guys are live. They're doing a live pregame show from Ohio Stadium. And you can start watching and you don't miss anything. We answer lots of viewer questions, talk about whatever you guys want us to talk about. We'll kind of give you a preview of the game, answer your questions and much more. And then after the game, we'll have a live post-game stream of the Ryan Day and the Ohio State Players press conference. And then Tony Gerdeman and I will do our typical post-game Buckeye Weekly instant reaction show as well, right after the game. Again, we'll have lots to, I'm sure there'll be lots to talk about after the game, but we'll also be answering your questions on there as well. So subscribe to our YouTube channel at youtube.com/Buckeye Scoop. Another great place to talk about the game is on the Ask the Insiders board at BuckeyeScoop.com. We have a fantastic team of insiders, a very vibrant community, lots of people who love the Buckeyes, all talking Buckeye football, all together, talking Buckeye football and a bunch of other stuff too on our Ask the Insiders board. That's all at BuckeyeScoop.com. So sign up to become a member today. And if you are a member, we greatly appreciate that. Appreciate your support. Appreciate you being a part of our community there. Thank you guys all for joining us. Have a great day. We'll talk to you later on.